All right, welcome back. Randomly with Ronnie Jr. The YouTube channel. Let's have a good time with it, of course. So, let's talk a little bit about Kandi Burruss, who happens to be one of my favorites. Now, at this point, and much like what I do with the channel, usually, other people are different, which is fine. I'm not so much into like the cutting edge, the breaking news story, which by the way, this is all just like stupid pop culture stuff for the most part. Not that anyone's stupid, but you know what I mean? Like this is just sometimes nonsense. Sometimes this is stories that are floated by the talent themselves, not in this case. But it's never like the biggest deal where I personally feel like I gotta do the recap or give commentary right away, unless I'm on another program or somebody needs that from me. But for me, I usually like to like get the story and marinate over the idea of what happened and kind of like hypothesize like, oh, what would this be? Like, what would this feel like? You know, Kandi, Carlos King, how much, you know, I could talk to you about how much I enjoy Real Housewives of Atlanta and like why I like Kandi, stuff like that. But I think above and beyond for this particular episode here, of course, I want to say thank you for checking it out because that's number one. I just did an episode recently talking about Real Housewives of New York, like what's happening with the Real Housewives of New York, like what is the big deal? You know what I mean? Like, is Andy mad at the footage that's coming in? Is there going to be an announcement at BravoCon? You know, like I said, a lot of these stories will be out there. I'm not like claiming to be the first one to talk about them. I kind of sit on them and then just enjoy and then just do fun commentary, which I'm having a good time here. And that's kind of what I'm going to do here with the episode about Kandi Burruss, because you know what? I really like her. Kandi Burruss alleges that Carlos King has the rights to the Xscape Story, or Xscape, I should say. And I believe this one was tracked back to an interview with House of Aaron, is the YouTube channel. I know it's always very important to give the credit, you know, where credit is due. But more than that, I just wanted to break down like what that feels like. And what do I even think? Like, when I hear a story like that, and of course that was from Kandi's mouth, do you instantly go Team Kandi? Do you say, you know, if I squint, as a what's her name, Wendy Williams used to always say, if I squint, I could look at Carlos King as a little bit like, yeah, he'd be shady enough just to do that. But then on the flip side, I've loved Carlos King's work. You know, the what was the show with the girl groups that came back? Well, they weren't girl groups, but 702 was in the group. Aubrey O'Day was in there, the girl from 3LW. Like I liked that Carlos King show quite a bit. I know he did the one with Jennifer Williams, Gloria Govan's sister, and Karamo, where Karamo said he was very large. I remember that scene. You know, just it was a Claudia Jordan, the great Claudia Jordan was on that show. So Carlos King does produce hits. But now what do you do if you generally like Carlos King and feel like, wow, he's got a great new podcast. I really like the way he flows with commentary, backstory, how he did it when he was working on these shows and how he would do it going forward. But then you got to also wonder, like, is he getting too excited now? You know, is he sometimes when you get success, and I don't know how quickly he has attained the success, sometimes you just want more. You just, you know, you want more and more and more. And the only more that we talk about here is Kenya Moore. Kenya Moore hair care. Sorry, side note, huge Kenya Moore fan. But I really wanted to take an episode here to really like break it down. Like Kandi, is Kandi frustrated at Carlos King? I mean, it kind of looks like she's making the commentary that, you know, she just doesn't necessarily trust him. So that's a sad thing to think that at one point they made magic together in terms of Real Housewives of Atlanta when he was, you know, the executive producer. And I hear on his podcast, he's always coming up with really great ideas. I personally, one of the few, I did not think that Housewives of Atlanta this season was a boring season. And I think the rephrasing needs to start coming into play, because I don't really feel like we should look at these shows and even cast members like boring or not boring, because what happens there is you start to get these animated characters. You start to get these characters that are so for TV. You know, when reality TV started, you couldn't even be like an actor or an actress or a singer and go on reality TV because of the stigma. But then it became such like a character, you know, and you see people like Leah from Housewives of New York, who's really done nothing for nobody. When people used to think her first season was good, I used to say, sadly, you're wrong. And then the second season, when they're like, oh, Leah fell off. She never fell off. She just filled this particular void that like Bethany was gone. You didn't know who Leah was, low expectations for her to come in. And she said maybe a thing or two that was funny. And she really didn't even say anything that was funny. It was just a this or that thing. And we never want to do apples and oranges. You need to let the apple be the apple and the orange be the orange. And with Leah, she was just the not Upper East Sider. And it was not like she was doing what Bethany had done and kind of like was the outsider and rose to the top. Like I didn't even see that. Why did I bring that up? What was the point of that? The point of that, was my choice of why I thought Real Housewives of Atlanta this season wasn't boring, and why we need to get over the concept of like boring versus like, I guess not boring characters, because you end up, when you start devaluing somebody and say, oh, they're boring, you end up making it like somebody could show their whole ass on the show and suddenly they're interesting. They do something asinine and it's like, look, that's footage. And then people will say like, it's good TV. For the record, even me, I love a lot of reality TV. Erica Mena is a queen. Like she should be in the Allstars of all reality TV of all time. Tammy Roman should be. Aubrey O'Day should be. I could go on and on. But Tiffany New York Pollard it's a gimmicky thing. Like I think she's done well in longevity. So I will stop down, give the kudos, credit where credit's due. But me personally, like I'm uninterested with Nicole Tiffany Pollard every time, especially on that show that Carlos King did. I would have went, to me, the star was Claudia Jordan, but she keeps it more subdued. She keeps it more as a human person. And so when we start having reality TV, not contestants, cast members that we assess as boring, because they're not doing the nonsense that a caricature would do, such as a New York Tiffany Pollard. And again, I'm not trying to knock her. We make it like the people that are actually really compelling are not as interesting as they once were. And I don't see that. I don't see the concept. People say Melissa Gorga, she doesn't have a storyline. Melissa Gorga is amazing. Melissa Gorga is the J-Lo of Housewives. I mean, even Elaine Goldsmith Thomas, who is J-Lo's producing partner, has been on the podcast, and she's enamored with Joe and Melissa and everything they got going on. So let's stop with the boring cast members. Now, you can't not say something. You can't not know how to be television friendly. The shows that I've done were Fuse TV, TLC Network. I did the Extreme Cheapskates on that, American Latino TV, Latin Nation. So you do have to have a way about presenting yourself to the camera and presenting yourself to the show. But just the concept of like, I hate to say it, and we're going to break this down here in a second. Kandi Burruss, you'll hear a lot of it, and I don't like it, honestly. Kandi Burruss, oh, she's boring, she's boring, she's boring. And then sometimes the people that give her a pass on the other side are like, oh, I like her because she's a boss. I just feel like, it's consistency. I wouldn't call her boring because you have another cast member like No Leaks, who was just what an embarrassment. I mean, she was just never funny, not once. I think out of the entire time she did the show, and the show really didn't start till season 5 when Kenya Moore showed up on the show. And even Portia Williams, nonsense, also unnecessary. Kenya Moore, this is her show. It always will be. And everybody knows that. What Nene Leakes tried to do was always just too over the top. And it's like, we know you're filming a show. So remember how the critique went when Chanel Ayan, who ended up doing really good on Housewives of Dubai towards the middle and end, but at the beginning it was like too much caricature. That's what Nene Leakes always kind of gave to me. And beyond that, she just like loved herself a lot, which I love. A confident woman. I'm hugely into Larsa Pippen, but Nene Leakes loved herself so much, and I think she was starting to believe her own hype. And I feel like there was a point that, like, in my opinion at least, we were laughing at her, not with her, but she thought we were laughing with her. And that's why now that she's, irrelevant to the series, and not even like thought about in the series, you don't even think of her anymore. Some people do. So again, I will not knock a minor contribution, but that's what I'm saying. Like, just having a caricature type or just a depiction that is like so over the top for television should not make you, the viewer, think somebody else is boring just because that person kind of acted in such a way that was this is just you doing too much for the cameras. There you go. You're doing too much for the cameras. We see right through you, that kind of thing. And also, while we could table this, because I want to just say that, for anyone who really loves that character, Nene Leakes, I will say in the entire time of her doing the show, which should have been She by Sheree's show, I was obsessed with She by Sheree season 1, and I really couldn't even follow the series 2, 3, 4 because it was a lot of like Nene was like the big thing, and I was like, this is such a boring show. Like this woman don't make any jokes. She is flat. But see, this was the time Twitter became big, and so people thought memes were really big. So take your meme, it's fine. Maybe the white refrigerator was a little funny, and the one that I do think that was good. I'll give credit where credit's due. Nene did, she did, invent the I said what I said, which was great, because a lot of times when you're in a situation and somebody's arguing back and forth with you, they really come with the, well, you said this and you told me that. Well, I said it. If I said it, I said it. So that part I could give her. Anyways, moral of the story is I don't think necessarily thinking of a cast member as a boring cast member makes a lot of sense, because we're doing reality TV where certain cast members just go so far. Larsa Pippen always had to deal with the Chihuahua. That's what Larsa called her, Adriana, who's been boring since season 1, episode 1. I've been watching Miami season 1, episode 1 when Larsa was the queen on season 1. She only did 1 season, but she still was the queen. When she went back on season 4, it's like, why, if I was Larsa, why do I have to breathe your air, Adriana? Why do I have to exist with you? Like, I'm up here and you're not even a thought. Not a thought, but an afterthought, so it's like this thing, like sometimes I think viewers get confused where they think what's polarizing, they think the stuff that's so big, that's so phony for TV, it like makes, I mean, again, I was going to go in detail about that, but like, again, you could choose whoever you like, you know what I mean? I'm not going to knock who you like character wise. I mean, let me slow down on that. You could like who you like. I could like who I like. You could think my green shirt is stupid. Or you could buy me another shirt. You know what I mean? Like it's all opinion. So I'm not like knocking anybody, but I'm just giving you my concept of how much I like Real Housewives of Atlanta and where I stand with the series in general. Gosh, if Claudia Jordan could have got a second season, could you imagine? So let's get into the bottom of this. I mean, really, what do we feel? Like Kandi is, she's the crier. And she's outside of Kenya, she really is my favorite. I mean, boss or whatever, it's just what a tenacity, what a consistency, what a great run, as like Michael Rappaport would say, what a great run she's had on the series. Kandi, I just assume in real life, to be somebody who won a Grammy, even like she is somebody who is business efficient, and we see that on the show. When she gets a show like with her husband Todd, when she gets a show like Kandi and the Gang, it's a no wonder. Like, they've been swinging the bat for years to try to pitch this and pitch that, and even when you're on the network and you do well, or on another network, they don't necessarily like greenlight everything. I remember seeing from Bravo, Padma Lakshmi, who I met in person once and was fantastic, but also so direct. So some people would say she was mean. I didn't think she was mean at all. She was actually had good character. Anyways, that's a subtopic later on. But with the one time I met Padma, it just was like, wow, I really like her directness. I like her go-getterness. She was a go-getter. And when I was watching her promote her new, it's not new anymore, but her new Hulu series, it was called Taste the Nation. And so I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, oh, she got that sold real easily. She's not only a beautiful woman, a business owner, model and everything like that, but she's got like, I don't know how many seasons of Top Chef on Bravo. Like, naturally, there's an audience that will follow her. She said that even her, like, there was not a big, a ton of interest for that show, Taste the Nation. And I'm just like, she's already hosting a cooking or a food type show, and yet this is just a little bit different and actually a little bit more with character and more, not character, but more, it has more depth to it. Taste the Nation was a show that was kind of going around the nation and showcasing where these foods came from, and just this great variety we have across the United States. So it was really, really good. But for her to kind of pitch and not get picked up right away, it makes me think that, as great as Kandi is and the track record she has, she won't always get, a show picked up by Bravo, and you think that would be sort of kind of almost a guarantee. So you could rest assured that Kandi and the Gang, in terms of it being like more like a series, because she did the Xscape one and the wedding one, all those other little like one-off shows, you could rest assured that it didn't come with ease. Like, she actually put in the work. So that's the part of her that I like. Now let's get to the comments in terms of like, you know, Carlos King. Now the question is, and you can put in the comments, do we like Carlos King? There's so many redeeming qualities about him. He's a ton of fun. I think when he did his, I think it was on OWN when he was doing the Love and like the Huntsville and the DC one, when he would do the after show for that. I mean, he was really giving Andy Cohen a run for his money, you know, and I was really like, wow, he's very talented. And most of all, he was passionate. Like he was, you could tell he loved this, and you could hear that in the podcast too. But what would make Kandi say that he has the rights to the Xscape story? And the second question is, do we want to hear or see the Xscape story? It feels like a lot of it seems to be known, but you never know what direction or angle they're going to go. In the particular interview, I believe, like I said, it was House of Aaron, but you know, other people had they were commentating on this as well. So I've just kind of, you know, paid attention to what the viewpoints are, and I just wanted to lend mine as well. You know, the question I have is, as great as they are, who wants the Xscape story, you know, to create like a biopic? And even if so, is it going to end up on like Lifetime? You know, I think back about TLC. TLC was like my favorite growing up, you know, bought the CDs right away. But I think it was like the first time I got the CD single. Like I was very enamored. I thought Chili was so cute, you know, had me feeling like I was a straight man looking at Chili. You know, it was Chili was it for me. So what I'm saying is the TLC story, the one that was put, I think this one was on VH1. I think was Drew Sidora in that, but also Keke Palmer was in that, and I'm not sure the third actress. But the point is that story, which you've heard a lot about before, even the movie of Dallas Austin with Chili, just different things. Of course, they would touch on like Andre Rison and the Lisa Left Eye Lopez is the fire and stuff like that. I just don't know that it was that great of a movie. So it makes me say, like, what will we see with the Xscape movie? Now, I don't know all the intricacies of all of the things. I know for sure, you know, sadly, Kandi did lose a brother. So maybe that could come up in that whole, like, you know, crossroads moment of like, do I, you know, what do I do? Like, I'm losing this person that I love so much. And I think it was an older brother. You know, is that one of the things that has made Kandi more focused and disciplined? You know, you go through something so tragic like that, you know, even the relationship with Mama Joyce, like maybe that could have been some of the fire, you know, in terms of the grieving process that Kandi has always had to have in order to succeed. You know, she almost couldn't just be. She sort of had to, you know, be and succeed and then keep trying to top that. So maybe we would see stuff like that. I think we're sort of getting tired of, I mean, to be honest, I would love to see a lot of the Kandi stuff. And in the alleged words that were said, it was in the vein of, you know, Kandi stating that not only did Carlos King acquire the story behind her back, but it was also stating that Mama Joyce had been called to sort of give some information or whatever, like to be interviewed. That way they were trying to extract more story. It's a really interesting thing because, you know, you don't want the narrative to be given to somebody else. And I think above and beyond that, and this would just be like some, you know, hello, Carlos King, excuse me, you got some explaining to do, you know, just like explain why she would say that and get the other side. Now, listen, he's always on the podcast. He's always on his IG and everything like that. He's a very, you know, I guess an executive producer that has tons of time to always be, you know, sort of talking and giving his opinion. So hopefully soon enough, we'll see his side of the story, because it very much could have been that. But I'm just saying in general, I'm not taking sides really in this one. I think if I had to, I'm going with Kandi, just because Kandi is just such the icon. I mean, when you talk about career longevity, when you talk about good character, and when you talk about doing it and like not having to like squint and say, did she do some shady stuff to get to where she got? Now with Carlos, you do wonder sometimes. You're like, if I squint, do I see somebody that was like very interesting with his come up? You know what I mean? I mean, we didn't adopt him as the name. What's the name he adopts himself with? We did not say, yeah, Carlos King is the king of reality TV. He said that. He told us. And it's like the first thing I thought, having worked on productions, I worked Married at First Sight. I've worked on America's Got Talent and a bunch of commercials and stuff like that. And even when I worked in radio and with talent manager Marky Costello, all the things I've done, specifically, 10, 15 years of radio, but all of the things, I sometimes wonder if it's the person who's giving themselves the accolades. And when they do that, in this day and age specifically, they can sort of make themselves rise to a new opportunity. Like I'm not saying anybody else was like, oh yeah, he is really like the king of all of this stuff. There's other people who have been working and producing longer than him. How is he, it's the branding, which kudos to him. It was why I do like him. Like I said, I did watch the one show, I think it was on TV1 maybe, with Karamo and Claudia Jordan and Gloria Govan's sister, Laura Govan. Such a great Benzino. the cast actually needed one extra person, and that would have been Melissa Ford. Or was Melissa Ford on that one too? She should have been. Nicole Tiffany Pollard, get her out of here. Not Erica Mena, yes. Nicole Tiffany Pollard, no. Anyways, are we to think, and I can't wait to hear the reaction, and even if like the reaction comes out soon, I'm still always going to wonder, like, how did this get off track? Because for the most part, Kandi and Carlos King are people that I really like to see succeeding in this business, and so you just don't want somebody who doesn't, Kandi doesn't outwardly say stuff like this and give this scoop. She keeps her business tight to the vest. She's very businesswoman. So it really saddens me to see this type of infraction is the word. This type of division rather. Hopefully there's some explanation. Maybe like he was doing it at one time and then like she was involved at one time, but then she took another deal and it took her off the off the project. Maybe it's something as a misunderstanding, or just an explanation is necessary. The good and better question is, are we, as I said with TLC, are we getting tired? Well, with TLC, we didn't get much, but with this, we've had the Xscape reunion reality show. We know that, they kind of had turmoil from even back in the 90s, and they're trying again. And I do think that I think it was on Mother's Day weekend, the Versus was one of the better Versus. I mean, probably was one of the best. I think the Jill Scott one with Erykah Badu was really, really good. A couple of them are escaping me right now. Escaping. A couple of them are escaping me at the moment. However, theirs was really, really good. There was that sisterhood. I think something went on with Coco, and I don't know if it was necessarily addressed, but like, the women just had each other's back, and that's what I like to see. Contrary to like Real Housewives fans, people love the drama. I love and hate. I hate how every season when the new cast, this could be any of the franchises, Beverly Hills, Orange County, Jersey, Miami, Potomac, the whole like interview press run is, oh, this season has more drama than ever before. Okay, what are you saying? Like, say something. Like the concept of holding like, oh, I'm going to be intrigued because it just has drama. That's what I'm saying about big cast members. These really, really big, over the top caricatures. The drama seems like the stakes aren't really there anymore, because that they're going on a show to show their whole ass, and you're like, it just feels so phoned in. It feels very, very phoned in. So that's why if you tell me, oh, the new season's going to be the best season ever, it's got so much drama, I'm more like, well, what's the complex stories? Say what you want, and I don't think Teresa Giudice is a favorite of mine, but the complex layers that is her and Melissa and Joe, and now him bringing his family, which seems like such an agenda, which I would just be like, man, Teresa, hold that money close, because he's gonna wipe you clean. But I don't, she's not my cup of tea. She never was from the beginning. Quite frankly, I thought I kind of did like what's her name, Danielle. I thought Danielle was like at least a compelling person. But you flip one table, your career and your life changes. What I'm saying is, at least for something like that, the stakes are high. When you got Nene Leakes telling Claudia Jordan that her vagina has been, whatever the stupid sentence was. The stakes are not high enough for these feelings. When you Karen and making up words, you talking about Giselle Bryant, Hampton University, and just throwing anything out. Like the stakes aren't that high, which they should be, because Karen did know Giselle before. But Karen, as you watched her, the way she's performed, she should have been the number two, like the easy number two. Giselle, star of the show. Karen, easy number two. She still kind of is the number two, but the way she's played it, like if you've seen it, it's been happening for years. Season 1 and 2, Giselle just annihilated her just by being Giselle. Karen was like drowning, like poor thing. She was drowning. But if you see coming into season 3, 4, 5, and so on, she started adopting this new character. I remember one time on Wendy Williams, Pebbles came on to the show, and Pebbles was doing her like back and forth between like TLC, they did this, what you don't know is TLC, they signed this, and they like kind of like blaming them, but on that flip side also being like, but I was the mother, I was the aunt, I was the caretaker, I think Karen must have watched that interview and she started adopting that whole thing. So if you notice, like from season 2 and beyond, after Giselle really kind of annihilated her those first couple seasons just by like being on the show, this wasn't going to Twitter and recorrecting a story, which Karen is known to do, Candace is known to do, Wendy's known to do. If you look at it, Giselle only talks when she's getting paid, if you notice that. So think what you want on Twitter. Twitter does not exist, people. Twitter doesn't really mean anything. IRL. In real life, no. Giselle's a queen. I've interviewed her. Love her to death. We're both Virgos. And she told me I was great, which I knew I was great. She knows she's great. We're all fine. Did she stop and say, "Oh, Ronnie, thank you so much," like kiss my ass like a lot of the YouTubers and bloggers expect? No, she didn't do that. I didn't need it. I didn't need the validation. I've been in radio since 2003. I've had, here's Beyonce at an event. We're right there with Beyonce. Here's Britney Spears. We're right there with Britney Spears. I mean, I would say that my resume specifically is thick enough to not need a housewife, to grovel over me. And I think a lot of people have that expectation. And when they don't do it, they suddenly speak and go to Twitter and go to their YouTube channels and podcasts. And then they make it as if like, oh, that person wasn't like, a good person. It's like they don't owe nothing to you. Anyways, my tangents today, I am just going all over the place. I was ready to talk. And what's funny is I had to do this episode really quick, and I actually got to get to a dinner. But in my mind, I was like, I'll just do this really, really fast. And the funny thing is I'm not tearing anyone down in this situation. It's more like a couple questions. What happened? I don't want Kandi to be mad that Carlos King did this. Or Carlos King, if you didn't do this, can you give an explanation? That's what I would like. I don't want this division because I like them both. I think they're both bringing out great shows. I watched a little bit of the Love and Marriage DC one. Ashley, if you ask me, upstaged. You know who I'm talking about. The one that was supposed to be the center point. Who was a bit lackluster to me on Potomac, but everyone swears she was something. But okay. Well, our morals and character is different. Anyways, moving on from that, I think he's got something good. He's consistent and he's always doing, Bell Collective is back. So good for you, Carlos King. The thing is, if he moves forward with this and Kandi feels how she feels, I don't like that. But the bigger question is, do we want to see more from Xscape? Is there more to know and more to learn? I'm sure that there is. The one thing, though, is I know that we have the reality show with SWV going on or filming or whatever. So are we going to be escaped out, at some point? Or was this just something that came up in an interview? It's not that big of a deal. But again, I'm just here to talk about what I feel about everything. Oh, side note, if I may. When you look, we're taking a look at a shot of SWV. It doesn't happen much, but and I'm sure I'm not the only guy who would say this. I would go straight so quickly for Lily. Is it Lily? Yeah, for Lily. There is something about Lily that I just like so much. So when I do watch the Xscape SWV reality show, you rest assured Lily is she's the one that I'm going to enjoy the most. And she was on Wee's Growing Up Hip Hop for a little bit too. Loved her all the same. Loved her when she was younger, when the music was popping in the 90s. and love her now. Oh, Lily, she just does something to me. She makes me reconsider my choices. No. I'm just being funny. But so the bigger question, as I was saying, is what do we want to see more from Xscape? Whether it's Carlos King, whether it's Kandi, whether they could get back together and make something happen together, or whether he does it on his own. I think a couple things we would, of course, want to know, not in a shady way, because we love Kandi around here. I'm a huge Kandi fan. Like, always, if it's not Kenya Moore that I ride for, Kandi's right there too. But we probably would want to know the intricacies of how the relationship with Jermaine Dupri, how that affected the group, in terms of like her going solo, et cetera, et cetera. Even him, we would love to know a little bit more about him. His father was in the music industry prior to him being in the music industry, or as a DJ or whatever, however he started. But, he's become this mogul. And he had that access into the industry to start, so I'd love to know some stories in terms of that. And like I said, the brother, and if that loss sort of led Kandi to the discipline that she has, like to make her mother proud, because of the loss, there's just a lot I would like to know. So I'm not against it, but I can't recall enjoying, and maybe you can't either. I can't recall enjoying the TLC biopic that was on VH1. Could that have been a lower production? Like could it have been better if it was on another network? Like A&E does really good with their stuff. FX does really, really good. Ryan Murphy has a lot of those American crime stories and stuff. It might have just been the network that just didn't fit. It felt very like, it was a VH1 movie that felt very Lifetime-ish. So, it kind of makes me like, oh, if and when somebody does this Xscape biopic, what are we going to get? But you know what, honestly, the nostalgia alone will probably be pretty good. The depiction, I think, sadly, Biggie made the little commentary about their looks. And, I think breaking those, peeling the onion back on stuff like that would make sense. What do they feel like? I think when you look at Xscape, I think all the women are beautiful, all of them. And especially Who Can I Run To, which was Jones Girl song, right? Who Can I Run To was one of my favorite songs and music videos. Like, I go nuts when that comes on. When I watch the SWV versus Xscape versus when that came on, I was losing it. I was like having a really good time because I really love the song. Oh, hold on, make sure this microphone is still up and running. Okay. Time to end the episode. So I kind of forgot the point there. But I just there might actually be enough with them in terms of things we just don't know. So it might be a lot of new information. But I worry that with the reality show coming, Kandi, I love that she stays on Housewives of Atlanta, and hopefully an Old Lady Gang, Kandi and the Gang was the name of the series, season 2. I do want them to get that, but I don't know if this becomes a little bit of a overload of Kandi and Xscape and that type of thing. But productions take a while. It could take a year and a half to make something happen. So maybe this is not that big of a deal. And this was not a knock. Like, shout out to Carlos King for doing something so different. And again, did he have to toot his own horn to get to the place that he is? Maybe. I've had a really hard time tooting my horn and saying this. I've always wanted to be, in that humble place. And not saying he's not humble. I've always wanted to be in that humble place where you could just like let somebody access you to the next level, next stage of your career. But sadly, I've been in the business since 2003, and even before that, I was an extra on a lot of sets or whatever, background talent. And you'd be surprised on how you are so ready for an opportunity, but people, in fact, instead of pulling you up, people by the way, they'll find ways to kind of keep you down. So maybe Carlos had to do what he had to do, and he's got a great resume. I mean, he was doing the stuff with Oprah, her last season or whatnot. So I want to, and I'm excited to see him succeed, but I'm just throwing a little like side eye, like a squint. Like if you really squint, you're like, is he the type that like stepped over certain people to get where he's gotten? I mean, you have to ask, but I don't think so. Carlos, I don't think so. But maybe. I don't know. And that I just ultimately love Kandi Burruss. And for Kandi Burruss to be alleging that Carlos King has the rights to the Xscape story, it's like, we just want to know more. we just want to know more. That was the end of the episode. As I said, I have been doing this for a very long time. YouTube has been a later thing. The way the career in the industry went is you, in my day, when you started, you were to accumulate all your work. You did a lot of free jobs because that was necessary at that time. But then ultimately you were getting your work out to a casting director, a program director, an agent, or a manager. But what you weren't doing is starting to do any more free work, because that's what you had to do to cut your teeth and get your feet wet back in my era, 2003, 2004, 2005. By the time I was in my third year, I was already doing Vegas radio, I've had like a morning show of my own, I've been on Fuse Television, all these things. But it got really rough when all of a sudden everything flipped and became direct to consumer. And at that time I was like, oh no, I've sort of gotten to a point credibility wise that I'm just going to hold off for regular jobs. And then lo and behold, like every casting director was like, oh, well, do you have a following? And I was like, I'm not trying to have a following, but do you see this demo? Like, it's insane, and they weren't really going for that. So I had to kind of sit on it. I transitioned into a new career. Like I said, I did television production for 3.5 years in New York. And it was tons of fun and like whatever. And in fact, I never necessarily was going to come back to broadcast, because I was like, to me, radio was always the funnest of things, or television hosting or whatever. The live component's really fun. So I was like, YouTube, I don't really want to do that. It doesn't give me the excitement that somebody who was working a regular job and now they're like, oh, I can do my YouTube channel and I could go viral and I could have a career. I was like, I've already been like, my name, this did happen. My name has been in the marquee at Madison Square Garden, because on Fuse TV, when we were doing the episodes, they were saying, who is the person you're going to vote for Ronnie, or my contestant, the other contestant was Adonis, and MSG owned the facility where Fuse was working out of, or I don't know what the partnership was, but that did happen. So when you have these really fun experiences, IFB monitor, a director downstairs, all the, the crowd, clapping, for your name or whatever, it's all this exciting stuff. It does get harder to come back and say, I'm going to do a YouTube channel. This is going to be fun. I'm being honest that it was hard for me to get to that place. But what I will say is I'm happy that I got to that place. I'm glad we could start sharing. We're building the audience. It's taking a long time, but and also, we always have to step up and be ready. We do have the patreon.com/RandomlyRJ Jr. But I'm saying it's something that you're going to see more consistency with. I'm having a good time. I mean, this day and age, my only concern is the broadcast. I wouldn't even have it on camera, but that's what everyone likes and needs or whatever. A lot of times, the judgment is very much like, if you've got that good metabolism and you've got that soft skin, and it's like, I'm in my 40s now and I'm still getting busy. So sometimes it's hard to get people to really like follow and enjoy your work, let alone I have a strong opinion, I say it like you mean it. But nonetheless, I'm just kind of giving a little bit of a moment to say it has been an insanely long career, so many peaks and valleys, so many good experiences, by the way, things that I could always talk to in detail. But it's been something that I'm like really happy that we have this platform. And I think if you watch this episode and you never heard of my work before, I think you could get that for the most part, I'm not like trying to like expose anyone, or I'm not cutting edge news. These stories have been out for like a little while. I go at my own pace. I take hiatuses, because I've done this for so long. In 2003, when I started, I was 9 days of work a week, every week for like 6 years. I mean, I was insane. There's only 7 days, but I worked like 9 days of work every single week, because that's what they told you had to do. We never knew that you could just be cush and like chill at your own home office and like do a direct to consumer thing and try to monetize. We never knew that was possible. So the work that we did was way tougher than what the new people that are doing. It was just tougher. But I don't mind. You succeed how you need to succeed. Carlos King could succeed how he needs to succeed, and Kandi's going to succeed how she needs to succeed. And it's always fun, because that's why they do these reality shows. It takes us out of our regular world, our regular tasks, and we could say, wow, I just really am inspired by Kandi. She's got a great business acumen, and I want to sort of follow in that footstep. Wow, Carlos King takes his career as a producer and then an executive producer, and then becomes like the next Andy Cohen or the first Carlos King. I like that stuff. I think it's all about resilience and tenacity and having a little bit of a good time. But I think, like I said, if this is the first time you've checked out this show, why don't you check out some of the other ones here on randomlyronniejr.com. We don't just have a podcast one, we've got several. So follow the links that are on the camera right now or on the screen, and hopefully there's something that you enjoy. And sooner or later we'll be able to have some little things that will be added to the budget that make the show that much bigger. Right now it's a little bit more in the earlier stages, so please try not to judge it for what it is. And I hope you got a good takeaway from the episode. I guess that's it. Nothing more to say other than I hope Kandi wins. I hope Carlos King wins, and I know Kenya Moore Hair Care is winning because she's the queen. And then we know this, that Ronnie has a crush on Lily. Oh my God, I love Lily. I love her. And I know I'm not the only one, gayer than a $3 bill, all the things, but Lily, she really brings me back. I start to feel the way I used to feel in high school. High school, you're still figuring it out. And so I'm starting to feel like I'm in high school again. Like, Lily, would you like to go to prom with me? And I know I'm not the only one. I better shut my mouth. I was going to say who else I have a crush on, but Lily for today. And that's the thing. We want everybody to win. We want SWV to win. That versus with Xscape was truly one of the best ones. It being Mother's Day and the spirit of motherhood. It just was really, 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 really good. So if you agreed with anything I said, amazing. If you didn't, that is just an opinion, so that's okay. I try to not talk so passionately, but before you know it, I always start, I just go. But if there's anything that you have constructively that you're like, oh, well, you hadn't thought about this, let me know in the comments. We may not get around to replying, but at the same time, you could leave it in the comments, and it's just like a really fun way to add perspective. Because if and when we ever get to read them, I'll have other bits of perspective to draw from. So anyway, I think the one thing that we should do, before I go, we should demand that Bravo brings back Kandi in the Gang. There's no official word on that, and I feel like the longer we wait, the more the show's not coming back. We saw what happened when we brought back Miami. Like we can't let these shows go in limbo for 8 years. Bring back Kandi in the Gang. I thought it had so much potential. I loved the cast members. What I loved about them is they were so real. They weren't like TV stars yet. I was kind of excited to see what's going to happen with Brian. I was excited to see all of them, really. Brian's not the only one who succeeded. They were all really great. It was done as a nice ensemble. Anyways, we got to go. Kandi, I hope you get your Xscape Story. I don't know how Carlos King could just take it from you. But that was the alleged information, and hopefully it just kind of smooths out, and this is all not as serious as what came out in that interview where she said that he stole the thing, and Mama Joyce was being asked to be interviewed about it, and it just got all awry. Maybe we want it to be simple and smooth and make everyone happy, or we want everyone to be happy. That's why we, the viewers, get to watch and listen to the music. So you hope that these creative people can find a way. I don't know. Hopefully. All right, I'm out here. Hashtag randomly with Ronnie Jr. You want to put that in the YouTube search bar. You could see all of the videos that I have on the podcast platform, as well as the old archive. I told you all that stuff from 2003. It's all over there. Go to the Patreon, patreon.com/randomly Ronnie Jr. And if you wanted to support the independent creator, you could maybe help and throw a little cash my way. And before you know it, maybe get some liposuction or something. Who knows? Fuck metabolism. I'm just being silly. I got to go to a dinner, actually. So I'll talk to you next time.
Hey, Ronnie Jr.